Mike, a simple question I've got to ask you is, why did you accept this fight? Why are you fighting Roy Jones?
Because I can. And I've been training pretty much for 3 years, not for a fight, but just to stay healthy. And my brother-in-law asked me, was somebody offered to fight for someone else? And then I first said, man, no, I don't want to fight anymore. Then this just little light bulb said, hey, will he fight me under the Marcus of Queensberry? Because I believe it was an MMA fighter. And he said, yeah.
Yeah.
But we went from fighting Bob Sapp to Shannon Briggs to Tyson Fury. Now we're fighting Roy Jones. So this is where I'm at now.
And Mike, at the same time as you were talking to people about perhaps having a fight, either with, as you say, Shannon Briggs or Bob Sapp, were you getting your shape back? Were you getting boxing back inside your head? Were you getting ready, basically, to step back in the ring?
Absolutely. Without even knowing it, because I never thought about fighting, but I just thought about looking good and looking impressive when I walked down the street. And then I said to myself, if you're gonna have a body like this, why don't you do something with it? And I said, yeah, I might as well do this, and especially from a charity exponent too. So I can help people, and that's if I could do that, man, before I die and thing. That's just beautiful, man. It was just beautiful.
But Mike, this is more than you coming back because you couldn't stay away. It seems like you coming back on some kind of mission to prove something, to prove that you can come back.
Well, not only that, but to think that this could be bigger than me, because it has a great, like I was saying, it has charity exponent, and I look at that bigger than me. Look, buying a new car, a new girlfriend, a new mansion, a new plane, a new boat, that don't do it for me no more. It just doesn't work.
You've bought enough mansions, new boats, and new cars in your days, though, Mike. It has to be said.
And it didn't work. Trust me, it didn't work.
Mike, have you found? I know that you're a different Mike now. You're a calmer Mike over the last few years. But have you found an even greater inner calm during the last 3 or 4 weeks of this training camp?
No, an individual like me, my mind is a torture chamber. Mm-hmm. So my mind constantly prepared me for war. Constantly. Every 10th of a second, quicker than your eye can blink, is war. And I'm discussing warriors in my mind and warriors from the past and the plans that they used before they fought. And it's just the way my mind thinks. It's constantly think about men that are great fighters.
So do you mean actually men that have actually got in a ring, or just men in history that are great fighters? So in some ways, are you traveling back to your greatest days?
I'm talking about guys like Achilles, Alexander the Great, Hannibal, all these guys, military geniuses.
So those guys are inspiring you. Those guys from ancient history, men that took elephants across the Alps, men that defied laws, men that walked on water, men that took on forces that should have annihilated and beat them. It's those great men that are inspiring Mike Tyson these days.
100%. They always inspired me. They inspired me when I was fighting. But I just think they called on me again and they want me to do this, and this is what I want to do. So
it's like a calling. It's like this is more.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say it's like a calling.
Now, Mike, is this fight here? Is this the closest you've been to returning to the ring under proper boxing rules in the last 15, 16 years? Is this
Absolutely.
The closest?
Besides sparring in the ring, yes, this is the closest I've ever been to actually professional contest.
Mike, in preparation for this fight and getting your mind right, do you watch any of your fights? Is that something you do, or do they just play inside your head?
Well, I watched my old training that I have on tape, and I watched how I trained back then, and I put that with what my caliber of training in now. I put some of that together. I always not more so than the fights. I watch my old training sessions. I watch them a lot.
Now, Mike, the old Mike, and I was around the old Mike a lot. You, in some ways, needed to want to fight the man you were fighting, to want to get in the ring with that man. Is it the same with Roy? Are you having to change the way you think about him to make him the enemy?
Listen, I'm stepping in the ring with probably the greatest fighter that ever came on this planet. So it's not like I'm fighting Santa Claus or Palooka Joe, okay?
that one particular night, all those years ago, when he outboxed John Ruiz to win the heavyweight title, were you ringside that night, or were you out of state, or weren't you bothered about it at that time? Can you remember?
Hey, I watched the fight. And I anticipated him winning that fight.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, I'm a big fan of little men beating big men. I've seen it happen all my life. As a matter of fact, I'm a person that pretty much stated the stamp on it, because all my fights I fought, I beat big men for title fights. I was always the smallest man.
And that gave you an advantage, because you'd fought big men quite a lot, and some of those guys hadn't fought a small guy. Mike, what about the guys now? They're big guys now. Tyson Fury's a big guy now. Deontay Wilder's a big guy now. Anthony Joshua, they're big guys now. I know you were ringside for Wilder against Fury. In fact, you were up screaming and enjoyed it. What do you think of those big modern heavyweights?
I think they're brilliant, man. I think they're brilliant fighters, and man, they could do so much for society and have exhibitions and take the money from exhibitions, because they're big crowd pleasers, and they can help so many people, the homeless, the drug infected. It's just so many people out there that we can do so much for, and that'd be that wouldn't even be a tenth of their charitable heart to do something like that.
Sure.
Fight exhibition. Matter of fact, fight exhibitions with me, and most of our charity would go to people who really desperately need it.
So
I'm not saying he shouldn't have money, but we can help people.
So after Roy Jones, for the sake of raising hundreds of millions, you'd be prepared to fight exhibitions with Wilder, Fury, or Joshua if it could be arranged.
Oh, absolutely. No fight, but exhibitions. Yes,
exhibitions, of course.
It'll be fights, but I want you to label them exhibitions for no hard feelings. It won't come across as hard feelings towards anyone.
Mike, you know the story about how you're named after Tyson, yeah? Do you know the full story about what
not completely. His father, yes.
Yeah, his father's lost a couple. His mother's lost a couple of babies, and his father's there. And Tyson Fury comes out, and he weighs like a pound. He's like a bag of sugar. And his father says, "No, we'll call him Tyson because Tyson's a great fighter." How do you feel when you hear a story like that, Mike?
I'm totally humbled.
Mike, I've got to ask you this. You talked there about how much money those guys could make in charity fights, and how you'd like to help raise that money when you're making, if you having some charity fights with them, and that would be admirable. It would be incredible, and everybody would be, to use your word, humbled. But over the years, Mike, you've made so much money. And I don't want to use the word regret, but is there regret in you that you didn't spend more on good causes?
Hey, most of it was good causes. It was given to people. So most of it was good causes. Even if there were bad people, it was given to them.
Yeah.
So,
I know that to be true. And so just finally, Mike, and we really appreciate your time here as you build up to Roy Jones. Two things. First of all, what's going to happen when it's ding, ding, first round against Roy Jones? Talk me through the first 60 seconds of that fight.
I'm right on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right on top of him. First round, I'm right on top of him. That's all I have in my mind. The first round, some ding, I'm right on top of him.
And Mike, if you could time travel, and if it wasn't an exhibition, which of the modern heavyweights would you like to test your skills, your power against? The prime Mike Tyson against the prime Tyson Fury, or the prime Anthony Joshua over 12 rounds for the heavyweight title? Which one of them, if you could time travel, would you want to share the ring with?
Well, if we're fighting at the same time, I would like to fight both of them that year. if I'm lucky of winning the fight.
Because that's the way you are.
Yeah, I always fight like 3 times a year when I was defending my title.
Mike, well, you sound like the happiest. I think you're the happiest Mike Tyson I've spoken to over the last 20-odd years. The most content.
Well, I'm very grateful that God allowed me to wake up another day. Allah was great. Thank you.
Mike, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy your exhibition with Roy Jones Jr.
Thank you so kindly, my friend.